Well, welcome to our second SAT question for practice. If you've not seen the first video, go back and check it out. We're working right now on the conventions of standard English questions, which would be called grammar questions on the old SAT. So the new digital SAT is going to ask us about half the questions on reading and half the questions on grammar. So take a look at this one. It says, although the oldest airships or blimps made passenger air travel commercially possible, they were plagued with problems. First of all, was the safety concern. Hydrogen gas is extremely flammable. Any spark or flame that came near the gas could cause a horrific explosion, which is exactly what happened. Now, the question reads, which choice completes the text so that it conforms to the conventions of standard English? Once again, that is how you're going to know this is a grammar question. Conventions of standard English. So, I've highlighted two sentences here. Now, obviously, the one in yellow is the one that's going to give us the answer, but I'm also going to draw out something from this one in blue. So, the SAT does not always apply the correct capitalization rules to their sentences. Now, it's very rare that they'll make a mistake, but this is one where I've caught it, where it says, first of all, was the safety concern, colon. Now, in order to use a colon, you have to have a full sentence before the colon. And so you could say, worst of all was the safety concern. Inverted sentence, but it's correct to say the safety concern was worst of all. But after the colon, you could either have a full sentence or a fragment. Doesn't really matter. But in English, if you do have a full sentence, you need to capitalize that first letter after the colon if it's a full sentence. And this one says hydrogen gas is extremely flammable. And that's a full sentence. So technically, this H sitting right here should be capitalized. Now, they kept it lowercase, not a big deal, but technically it's incorrect. Now let's take a look at the actual sentence, which says, any spark or flame that came near the gas could cause a horrific explosion, which is exactly what happened. So, the reason I brought that whole point of capitalization up is when we get over here, there's actually two answers of which are technically correct. Now, the SAT wants us to then notice that they use the semicolon here on the A choice. Now, a semicolon only works if it's a full sentence on both sides, and you can't just simply say, which is exactly what happened. That word which will not work as a subject of a sentence. The word that would work, but the word which won't, so I can't use A. And then down here is this word which with a dash. Now, a dash is a neat way of actually joining two thoughts together. As long as it's a full sentence in front of the dash, then you can follow a dash with anything you want. And you'll find the dash and the colon are exactly the same. After a colon or after a dash, you can have both a sentence as well as a fragment. In front of the colon or the dash, it has to be a full sentence. Here's where it gets weird in English. You never capitalize after a dash, but you sometimes capitalize after the colon, as we see here with hydrogen. But this dash comes after the word which means the sentence says is exactly what happened. Not only is that not a sentence, but in front you couldn't just simply end on the word which and call that a sentence. So D is not right either, which gives us both B and C. Now the SAT wants us to choose C, and I'm okay with that. I think C is a great answer. Very typically, we always put commas near the word which. We almost never put commas near the word that. So, comma which is exactly what happened, makes this into an adjective or a relative clause describing an explosion. It's perfect. But technically, you could get away with this B choice. The colon then goes into which is exactly what happened. And the way you use a colon in English language is it doesn't have to connect to a full sentence on the other side. And so technically B is right. But I know the SAT enough to say this C choice is what they want us to choose. So they don't always play by the grammatical rules that they're supposed to, but if you think about it, this one's a pretty safe choice that we should all know about. And this is your second SAT lesson.